right, guys, we're gonna learn how to use those bands properly. There's a bunch of different types of resistance bands out there, and today we are gonna work on ones that have handles, as you see here, and your small resistance bands, or like people call them booty bands. There's many different types of names for these type of bands. There's also bands that are one giant circle, that kind of like the size of this. You can also use those too for any moves that you do with handles. But for today, we're just gonna use these two types. When you do buy them, you are gonna see different sizes. So this one's pretty heavy. And then I have one that's a little bit lighter that has more slack, less resistance when you pull. It's nice to have both sets. That way you can do different moves with it, but I'll also show you how you can change the resistance with just a single band as well. So let's start with those handles. It's really important to know how to use bands when we're doing the workout so you get the most proper thing. And the nice things you are about bands is that you're getting that nice resistance down as you are up. So before we do this, you have your bands are long. When we do anything standing, and you have your feet on, 1 foot on is going to be less resistance. As you notice, it's a little bit easy here. If I took 2 feet on, it's gonna be a little bit more. And if that's too easy, I can even walk my feet out so that I give less slack in that band. And watch this, it's a little bit heavier. And once you get to the point where you can't give yourself any more slack or less slack, you're gonna move to those heavier bands. And on those heavier bands, you might have to start with 1 foot on, or you're up here. See how that's already heavy for me? And then 2 feet on to do something heavier, all right? And the nice thing about the bands too is you can always start heavy and then drop to light, just like you do with a TRX or anything like that, or drop certain weights. You can do that with the band, nice and easy. When you do have these handles, what's really important about the movement, we'll stick with bicep curls, is when I do the movement, when I go up, I slow it on the way down. So one thing that we have to work on with bands is you actually get stronger when you work the negative. The negative is the way down, or if you're doing triceps, it's the way down. It's whatever the easiest part is, okay? So you're resisting gravity, that makes sense. Because I can do this and let it fall down all day long, but if I pull up and let it go down nice and slow, always keeping tension on that band, then I'm gonna get a better workout, I'm gonna get a little stronger, all right? So we have the standing ones. The same thing when it goes for on the ground. I'll show you a couple moves you can do on the ground with these handlebars when you're doing like rows or hamstring curls. And you can put it around a pole, or you can put it around your feet even. If I'm here, I wanna make sure, especially when I put them around the pole or the feet, that they aren't gonna be able to slide up. So if I am gonna have them on my feet, which is really important because I've seen it happen where it snaps people in the face and it's not fun, you wanna make sure you have it like right in the middle of that foot, right between like the ball and the top of the feet. So it's right underneath the ball of the foot, right here on the heels. So if I'm here, and if you notice here, I have my heavy bands, but they're pretty long. So I don't have to hold the handles the whole entire time. I can walk my hands up, and now shoulders down and back, I can row with more resistance, and I can slow it down on my way forward. See how I'm not just letting it go? I pull and I slow down. Pretty easy. When we are using those bands too, for instance, if I'm gonna use them for core, again, make sure that they're in the middle of your foot so they don't slip on the top or they don't slip on the bottom, because that is a common error. Say if we do Russian twists with them, or we can do assisted sit-ups. There's a bunch of things you can do with these cool bands. All right. Last but not least, with the bands, when you have them up top, there are ones that you can do holding both. For instance, we can do lat pull downs, or we can do rear delts. Same thing, you really don't want to hold that handle, because if I hold that handle, I have nowhere to go, right? So what I like to do is put my hands right in the middle first and then walk them out so they're about even. Find that perfect resistance here, and then I pull out right here. And what you really want to make sure you have is a nice heavy band for most of these moves, because sometimes people try to stick with just the light, and I'm not going to really get anything out of it. Especially if I pull and it doesn't flat forward very easily, that means that band's way too light for you, okay? Because you want to resist that gravity, get that negative moving. All right, we're gonna move on to our smaller bands or booty bands. There's also different, if you do a pack of these and buy these, there are different colors and they have different sizes. Each company does a little bit different in the colors and stuff. They usually go from light to medium to heavy to like extra heavy. All right, you really want to have a whole entire pack of these because you are going to be using all of them for different moves. All right, usually the heavier ones, you're going to do more for legs, and then the lighter ones, you'll do more for arms. You can also buy them in a, I guess this would be like latex or rubber form, or you can get them in a cloth form. These are kind of like thicker bands. These ones are usually mostly used for legs because they don't have as much resistance or slack as a lot of these other rubber bands do. So just kind of be wary of that if you purchase these. All right, so I'm gonna start with my upper body with the round bands. When you do these, there's different ways you can hold your hand. So for instance, if I'm gonna do some rear delts, I can hold my arms out here and try to pull out, or I can grab it on the outside and pull out. What you wanna be very careful though, is if you are using the lighter ones, you don't use ones that are too light for certain moves or you will snap them. And that's happened a lot where it just goes flying across the room. You've seen it a lot of times in classes. So be wary. If you can pull those arms all the way out here, that is way too light, okay? You're gonna break those bands and it's gonna probably scare you a little bit. And you have to purchase more and that's not cool. So, right? Right. All right, so lighter bands for the upper body. There's different ways you can hold them. It really depends, and these are actually really good too if you have any wrist issues, so you don't have to grasp anything. You can have your hands out here, and you can pull here. You can do bicep curls with them. There's a lot of things you can do with these neat bands, especially if you have any gripping issues, tennis elbow, or any wrist issues. Let's go ahead and move to the lower body with these, because there's really not, most of these are gonna be for the upper body. We can do a lot. I'll show you a few moves in this workout that we're gonna be doing. So for that lower body, it's really important where you place the bands, and also this is a little light, so it's probably not gonna do a whole lot for my lower body. So I'm gonna move to a heavier band to show you. When I put them on, I put both feet in first. Pretty simple. And we're gonna start with a couple moves where they're right above our knees. Right here. So you definitely never want to put them on your joints. So they don't go behind the knees. I've seen people do that because they go try to do stuff really, really fast and they don't realize where they're placing it. And then you're gonna put a lot of pressure on those joints and it's not good for them. So make sure you're either above the knee or below the knee. All right, so we're gonna start with above the knee. So I'm like right above the knee. You can go a little bit higher if you want. But once you start going too high, it'll start to roll down and it gets a little annoying. So right above that knee, there's different moves you can do with this. What the nice thing about it is now I'm creating resistance, right? So if I'm gonna say squat and I have hip issues or I have knee issues and I tend to wobble or they're a little bit weak or they're not flexible yet, put a resistance band on, get that squatting motion, and when I come down, now I can't wobble out because this is pushing me back in. So it's forcing my hips to go forward and it's putting in the correct position. So I'm training my hips and I'm also creating more flexibility in them. So I'm up here, you can squat. When I do side steps, which we do a lot of these, you've seen this probably the most when you see resistance bands, they're called crab walks. I like to call them side steps. When I'm doing this motion, notice how I'm keeping resistance again, always like tension on it. So I'm not here and I come in and I come in. Notice how there's always tension, so I don't let my feet come together at all. And so that way, I'm creating more of a workout when I step forward and when I step in. Because now I have to, resisting that gravity to want to push my leg all the way back in. It's the same thing with those hand bands. So step, 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 you can go as far as you want. Those are the crab ones, all right? You can also do ones on the ground. If I'm on the ground, again, same position. I like to put them on before I go on the ground because it's a little uncomfortable to try to get them on while you're on the ground. I'm here. You could do glute bridges with them. Once again, creating that resistance because I don't want to push out. And if I do push out, now I have a little bit extra of a workout. So I can be here. I can take them a little bit lower. There's so many things you can do with these. And if once again, I decide that I'm gonna have them on my feet, they're right in the middle so they don't slide off, right? I can do little ankle toe lifts. I can be here. I can do side lifts. So many things, but notice how I have this bottom one where it's not gonna fly off, all right? Pretty simple. One more move I'll show you before we get started with our workout is you can use these smaller ones for some more upper body on the ground. So for instance, if I put my foot in where it's not gonna slide, put one back, now I have a great thing for rows right here, right? When if I did that with the band, which I absolutely can, the ones with the handles, I can put one on. Look how much slack I have here, and I can do the same thing, just a little bit more of a pain because I have all this extra stuff going on, all right? So with these bands, 3 rules: know the size that you need, heavy, medium, grab a variety of them. Always, always, always keep tension. So that means don't let it just fly back, work that negative. And the third rule is safety, safety, safety. If you are gonna be doing pulls or something, put it around a bike or whatever you're gonna put it around. Make sure it's not gonna fly up, hit you in the face, fly somewhere else. Make sure it's safe, okay guys? That's all you need to know about bands. Let's get this workout started. We're almost done with our first circuit. We have 2 more. It's 4 moves, 3 times. The next one's gonna be super fun. All legs.
If you're looking for a convenient, motivating way to get or stay fit, Studio Sweat On Demand has a huge library of ad-free on-demand workouts with non-stop hot new releases, all featuring real people just like you. Start your 7-day free trial by downloading our app. It's risk-free with no credit card required. So get started today.